Entrevistas Metal Index tendrá el tan agrado de moverse a tierras oceánicas para coincidir con un talentoso músico creador de una de las propuestas más innovadoras del mundo del death metal. Conoceremos a Lewis Fischer, quien es fundador de la aplastante banda Altars, quien entre varias e interesantes anécdotas nos hablará de la nueva larga duración de la banda llamada Aesthetic Reflection. Sin más preámbulo, comenzamos.
Sean todos bienvenidos a otro episodio de Entrevistas Metal Index. Mi nombre es Washington Ibáñez y hoy vamos a tener una gran conversación con uno de los integrantes de una banda proveniente de Australia, la cual nos estará hablando acerca de su nuevo trabajo Aesthetic Reflection, lanzado en julio de este año. Hoy en el canal tenemos a Lewis Fischer, quien es guitarrista, productor y líder de la banda Altars. Hey, what's going on, bro?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for your time first. It's the first
thank
time.
you.
It's the second time that Metal Index arrives to Australia. Your country is amazing. The music, city, strangers, animals, everything. Beautiful. Congratulations for the new album, Aesthetic Reflection, released a few months ago. How do you feel about it?
The response has been really, really positive generally, and I'm really, really happy with the way the release turned out. You know, it's I spent quite a bit of time working on it, and I think the end product is sort of exactly what I had in my mind when I was thinking about it. You know, way back from the start through to the end, and the way it developed throughout. So. Yeah, I'm really happy with the sound of the recording and the artwork and everything. It really captured everything like 100% exactly what I wanted to do. So, it's really probably one of the most sort of as close to exactly as I had it in my head, that I've ever worked on. So yeah, it's pretty special.
Yeah, it's a good album. It's a masterpiece. No se olviden de suscribirse a nuestro canal en YouTube, darle click si te gusta, te tiene que gustar, y también tenemos en nuestras redes sociales en Instagram, Facebook y Twitter, y también si prefieres oírnos lo puedes hacer a través de Spotify, Google Podcast, Player FM y nuestra nueva sesión en Podline. Luis, how do you define the music of Altars? I mean, I would say the Altars has elements of progressive, technical, brutal death metal, doom, black metal. For all of these, name 3 bands as influences.
Sure. Well, I guess like the first part of your question, the way I would define it is literally just death metal. It's got elements of all sorts of things, and I take influence from a lot of different places and try and whether it's classical music or something else entirely, and try and incorporate those ideas again into sort of the compositions and whatnot. If I was to try and summarize this with 2 or 3 bands, it would be very difficult because it's kind of taken on a life of its own. But from a young age, I guess like my biggest sort of metal influences are Morbid Angel and Gorguts, and if you take those two and smash them together, somewhere in the middle you end up with Altars, which is Trey Azagthoth and Luke LeMay have always been like 2 of my biggest influences on guitar. And like these days we're not like necessarily trying to do something because it sounds like Morbid Angel. There might be bits like that, but I'm more inspired by like the way those 2 bands created something new. And I guess that's what I'm sort of trying to do as best as I can. Sometimes, you have a crazy idea, it works very well. Sometimes not so much, but you have to try. You have to try to experiment and try and create new sounds.
Is Morbid Angel old school or the new Morbid Angel?
Old school. Probably my favorite Morbid Angel album is probably Covenant, but The first one, when I was very young, the first one that I discovered was Domination. And I kind of like snowballed from there. So like I heard Domination, and that was around that time, I was really getting into music, and I was playing guitar a lot more, and I sort of realized I wanted to play death metal, and it's kind of like why I ended up with my guitars as well. Like I have like a white Ibanez Universe, like the one Eric Rattan plays in the film clip for Where the Slime Live, and I have the black one that Trey used to play with the green dots. So, very big influence on me.
Really good. In my opinion, I define authors as progressive death metal. Am I right?
It's funny. I don't really like the term progressive, and I don't generally like a lot of bands that maybe market themselves as like a progressive death metal thing. Like, look, it makes sense to me in like terms of terminology. I think of alters more as maybe experimental or a little bit exploratory. We're constantly trying to like push the limits of, what you can do within a death metal context. But then always, before it gets too crazy, before it goes too far, you pull it back. So, it grounds it again in those death metal roots. So, I'm not trying to be progressive because I think that terminology's lost a lot of meaning. Once upon a time, bands like King Crimson and stuff like that, they were doing like literal progressive rock, and then it kind of became a genre unto itself. And I'm not a big fan of most modern stuff of that kind of thing. I'm never trying to be overly technical. Sometimes a song will call for more technical parts, but I'm not trying to be a technical death metal band or a progressive death metal band. It's just death metal to me personally. But these things happen as musical events sometimes throughout the recordings. And I kind of think of it, in simpler terms. It's like there's no need to like give a million different definitions. I think really the best way to discover it is just to listen to it and allow yourself to be absorbed by the music. Don't go in listening to aesthetic reflection. Don't go in expecting to hear anything in particular. You just need to experience it. And it's an album that you kind of need to, by design, it's sort of meant to be listened to start to finish. So the tracks are all like kind of interrelated and like tell a kind of a story. So, one track impacts another track. So, you kind of just need to allow yourself to just listen and enjoy instead of trying to overanalyze.
And speaking of the first album, Paramnesia, and the new album, what is the concept between both albums?
Sure.
So it's the same or it's different for you all?
It's similar. So Paramnesia is kind of built around this concept of like life, death, and rebirth, like this infinite Ouroboros kind of thing. And that's, a very important part of that album, particularly with the title track or the title tracks that, at the end of the record. The sound you hear at the start of Aesthetic Reflection is actually the final riff from Paramnesia. It's the end of Ouroboros played backwards at half speed through an echo chamber with some tape manipulation techniques. So it's like coming from one world into this other world. Aesthetic Reflection, kind of like the entire album is sort of a little bit like a dream sequence. You're trapped within the Ouroboros and you can't escape. There's no central character, and kind of the album forms a mirror in the center of the record. So where Black Light Upon Us ends and Aesthetic Reflection starts is kind of like the center of the album, and it was planned that way to kind of be like about like 40 minutes exactly if it could be. So by design, like the record is kind of like an infinite loop that you could just listen to on repeat, or you could listen to in backwards order, or you could listen to normally. So it's kind of like you've been spat out of like that world of Paramnesia but then you're like kind of trapped in this infinite loop as well. And I guess, thematically, it's sort of, I guess, an allegory for a lot of things kind of happening in the world at the moment and have been for a while. And, it's kind of designed to sort of encourage some introspection and like thought about like, ourselves, and like there's no central character. The central character to the album is the listener, because we're wanting to like kind of, I guess, hold a mirror up to society in a way.
It's amazing, the music, and it's amazing the way you create lyrics. This is something about history and metaphysics. What do you usually read about and create the lyrics?
With the lyrics for this record, I wrote some lyrics, but it was mostly Brendan, and he was able to kind of take my ideas and sort of general concepts and kind of just run with them. And he had free reign to do whatever he wanted, and he really understood it and got it, and he did a fantastic job. Normally, like when I'm writing songs, like I'll have like an idea for like maybe a song title, or like I'll be writing a song, I'm like, this song sounds like this, and and then the lyrics maybe come after. There were a couple of exceptions. The track Black Light Upon Us is kind of based around a painting by an Italian-American artist, Aldo Tambolini. So this painting is a painting of words. It's called Painted Poem. I think it was done in the 1960s. But I'd seen this painting, and I kind of felt like a connection there with the artist and like kind of things he was interested in and developing throughout his career. And he kind of had this obsession with the color black, and this was like a common theme in all of his works. And at the time I was writing the song, we had like extreme bushfires in Australia. So, I was, sitting there at home, like working on the track and like trying to get all the parts and layers to kind of sit how I wanted. And meanwhile, outside, like the sky is literally like black or brown, and all I can smell is burning eucalyptus trees. So it's sort of like I guess you could say it's an allegory for, climate type issues and stuff like that. It's a pretty horrific time. And I was trying to capture that in the music, and then I remembered that particular painting, and that kind of all tied together very nicely for me. So it just made a lot of sense. I felt that really connected with his themes that he explored in his artwork, and also the themes I was trying to explore in the song. So it's all very deliberate the way it's done.
As we know, you are the engineer of aesthetic reflection, and you mixed and recorded it as well. This is something funny. If you want to choose any producer you want for the next album or whatever, who will you pick?
I should add co-engineer, co-producer, because Brendan and I did it together. So it was about like split 50-50 effort. Like when I was recording my parts, he was recording me. When he was recording his parts, I was recording him, and so on. And we shared like the duties. If I could record with anyone, probably like Steve Albini in at Electrical Audio in Chicago. That would be very, very cool, and a very good learning experience. And like the studio we recorded Aesthetic Reflection in actually had like a very Albini-esque kind of setup. That's kind of like the sound I tend to like. Although I think for the next album, like I might like want to go for like something slightly different again. But recording with him would be incredible. I also really admire Sylvia Massey. She has just some crazy techniques and things that she does. A very eccentric kind of a person, and very inspirational person. So either herself or Steve Albini.
That was complicated for me. If I have to say someone, I would say Eric Rutan, for example.
Oh, yeah,
leader from Hate Eternal, now playing with Cannibal Corpse. He changed the sound of Cannibal Corpse. when you listen to Cannibal Corpse, there is 2 ways: before kill and after kill.
Yeah, and he's done some great work. I guess, like, for me, like, the kind of sound like I like to go for on a recording, you'll hear in Aesthetic Reflections, a very atypical for like a death metal recording. It's meant to sound very organic and like lifelike. You're meant to feel like it's breathing and like you're like it's like growing on you as you're listening to it, like physically, like a plant. Wrapping vines around your legs and stuff. It's meant to be very organic and natural. Like, I don't like a hyper, tight produced kind of sound, like, because I feel like for me it kind of tracks a little bit, but it also depends on the band. Like sometimes I record other bands. It depends on their sound, what they're going for. For me, for Aesthetic Reflection, it was meant to be that kind of a Eric Rattan kind of production style wouldn't have suited. But like, maybe for the next album, like, I might want to go for like something more aggressive. So it's sort of like, I'm still working out what the next album's going to be. But like, it just depends. Like, for the sound of the album, I think like it was exactly like how I felt it should sound in my head. So like, we were going for a much more like, open sort of sound.
Yeah, it depends, because Cannibal Corpse and Hate Eternal sounds different. Lewis, after the releasing of this album on July recently, what is the main plan to do in advance? Any tours, gigs, anything?
We did an Australian tour, or as many shows as we could fit in like a pretty short space of time. We do have some more stuff on the horizon, so I can't mention what they are right now, but we are planning an international tour, and probably by the time this comes out, maybe that will be announced. I don't know, but I can't say what it is right now because it's not announced yet. But yeah, hopefully, we would like to get everywhere we can. If you're interested in bringing us to your country, wherever you might be listening from, if you're a promoter, or you have a promoter friend who you can hassle, we'd love to come play for you. So book us and we will come.
Okay, let me know if you want to go here to Florida. Let me know soon.
Okay, I'd love to go to Florida. It'd be really interesting. I've been to the US once, but I haven't visited Florida. We'd really like to come to the US. It's just like tricky with all the visas and stuff. It's quite complicated to come to the US from Australia to perform, because you're technically working in special permits. But
Sure.
it's just one of those things. Yeah, it'll be great. We'd love to.
Sure. Thank you so much for this meeting. I felt so well talking to you today. Authors is a great band that we are too privileged to listen to, because the music of Authors is for people who love deep to death metal.
Thank you very much for having us. Really appreciate it.
Something you have to say before leaving?
Thank you very much. The response has been quite overwhelming. It's really great, to hear from people who are enjoying it. And hopefully we'll see you in your country or wherever you might happen to be soon. And thank you so much for the support.
You are very welcome, man. Gracias por disfrutar de este momento con nosotros, y no se olviden de visitar nuestro canal en YouTube Metal Lindes, darle like a este video, coméntanos si te gustó la entrevista, si te gusta el death metal, si te gusta Arthur, si te gusta el black, el doom, lo que sea. Ahí estamos para intercambiar opiniones. Síguenos también en nuestras redes sociales, en Instagram, Facebook y Twitter, y si prefieres oírnos lo puedes hacer a través de Spotify, Google Podcasts, Player FM y nuestra nueva sección en Podbay. Esto es todo por hoy. See you later.